This is what Ayodhya did here in Madras, and Ambedkar did that also. So in this volume, what Suraj does is, Suraj simultaneously provides a bird's eye view of the Dalit plight to the society at large, and a mirror to his fellow brethren themselves, and offer his views on Dalit liberation. How does he do that? He begins by showing what it is to be a Dalit in everyday life. He takes examples from his own life, rightly speaking. Then explains why Dalits are content with emancipation by upper caste saviors than liberation from them. He actually distinguishes what is emancipation and what is liberation. What he says is, Dalits are generally content with emancipation and not interested in liberation. And maybe, he gives reasons why he thinks that way. And one is obviously constitutionalism, which I'm going to talk about later also. And another thing what he says is, he actually shows the problem that generally Dalits face. And many of the problems are created by Dalit themselves. In fact, he provides a number of shades of Dalits. From elite Dalits to bureaucrat Dalits to harmful Dalits. I don't know where do I belong. Maybe it's something that I'll have to wonder now. The solution offered by these states, actually the solution, because naturally this is also the case even in other communities, but particularly more important for Dalit communities. Members of these communities, when they go up, they become middle class, or when they get some economic empowerment or some kind of intellectual advancement, what they do is they start offering solutions. This naturally happens, and they become guiding stars. And what he says is many of the solutions that are offered by these people actually perpetuates the problem instead of liberating the masses. Then he actually coins a new thing. I'm not sure, I didn't find this anywhere else. Maybe this is what Suraj was so passionate during the one festival also, Dalit love, which he calls as Dalit love. A classic example of Dalit love for us could be the Pariyaram Perumal movie. What he says is, this community, which the exact word if I want, if you want me to quote from Suraj, he says, its capacity to love, even in the face of utter destruction, audacity to hope, courage to enter into dialogue with the oppressor is what keeps them alive. What is it that keeps them alive, in face of all these things? He says that is Dalit love, the ability to love themselves and love others, have a dialogue with the oppressors, he says. So even in the Pariyaram Perumal, the Tamil movie, it traces the college life of Dalit youth subjected to unspeakable violence. It does not retaliate. I'm not sure whether you got a chance to see that. So I'm just giving it. Okay. He does not retaliate, even when the opportunity presents itself. Determined to finish his studies come what may, explains to the oppressors over the cup of tea that nothing will ever change as long as the oppressor remains who he is. The change begins from the oppressor. Can this country face a Dalit retaliation? Should we decide to retaliate? That's what he calls as the Dalit law. Then it comes to another thing, constitutionalism. Obviously I have some problems with that also, which I explained to him. He says, Dalits, have excessive reliance on constitutionalism as a means of emancipation. Dalits feel their only hope is constitution. That's a fact actually. In fact, they own the constitution as a Bible. And unlike other communities, Dalits own the constitution as a Bible. There is not a single Ambedkar statue that you can find without a copy of the Bible. Though I agree with him, as I said earlier, I believe without the constitution, Dalit lives are in a completely hopeless place. That's a fact that we'll have to accept. And if you just think of the situation, every minute there is a violence against Dalits. Many have reported, at least 90% what reaches the court gets acquitted. What would I say? The perpetrators are acquitted actually. But still, what makes them to choose constitutional means after every violence? Because historically speaking, Dalits, were the first to be introduced to rule of law in modernity. Like every other lesser life forms, what they did was with the arrival of the British, Dalits were the first to engage in modernity and rule of law. From then on, what happened was still, in the writing of the constitution, the Dalits wrote the constitution itself. So what happened was our belief in the constitutional means is actually unparalleled. I'm not sure if there is any other community that can actually claim to have that kind of a belief that an ordinary Dalit has on constitutionalism. But it has its own unintended effect also. I'm not blaming anyone, but it's a fact. the state, aided by certain human rights agencies, what has happened is every atrocity on Dalits is now turned into a statistical information. There's so many, in last month or so, there have been at least 4 or 5 reported atrocities on Dalits here in Tamil Nadu. What's happening? Where did we lose the radical steam? What happens is the affected family, they immediately after 1 or 2 days then they completely lose hope and everything. They immediately start filling up the forms to get the compensation under the ACST Act and run from pillar to post to trying to get a sense of kind of some sort of justice at least. After 6-7 years, they really don't get that, but still, they don't lose hope on that. So that is something even we need to think on that. And then he ventures to provide readers an understanding of the Dalit polity. In fact, it's a critical analysis where, honestly speaking, it critically examines the role of Dalit politics in India, what has happened in the past few years or so after the constitution. So, there he again gives us a range of Dalits, which he calls some Dalit elites, Dalit bureaucrats, Dalit scholars, harmful Dalits and other things. And most of the Dalits, you can characterize them as middle class Dalits actually. Even in Ambedkar was perturbed by the selfishness actually. So most of these members, they wield enormous power, both economic, social and intellectual power. It is what, it is them who take most of the decisions. So Dalit has a problem with that. He says this particular middle class, instead of breaking the system, is clearly entrenched in the system. So they are not actually helping us. Then later on, when he moves on to Dalit capitalism, he finds a problem with that also. Dalit capitalism and finally Brahmin saviors. Recently there was a movie, Article 15. I personally had a problem with that. How long do we search for saviors from, upper caste saviors? Where is the agency within the Dalit themselves? Many of the movies do not even portray the agency that they have. So he asked the question, can one be a Brahmin and still fight against Brahminism? He gives actually a lot of examples, historical examples for the past 100 years, where there have been really radical Brahmins who were ostracized by the community. But now what is the situation is, they speak of, they sympathize with the Dalits for what, but at the end of the day, they still continue to enjoy the privilege, social capital that their caste actually provides. That is something we need to see. They're not ready to come out of that privilege, they're not ready to come out of the social capital that their community actually provides. This is something he has highlighted. Now coming to the, later my opinion of that. I felt, for many places, Suraj is making some kind of a generalization based on his personal experiences. At places, it borders on polemics also. And actually, these are something that he is actually interested in. But maybe as time permits, he might actually develop that into something else later also. And there are certain glaring omissions, for something that actually presents a cross-sectional view of the society. Certain glaring omissions like the relationship between Dalits and the intermediary caste. It's not that the fight is always between Brahmins and Dalits. That is something that's actually there. But in reality, in practice, what happens, at least in Tamil Nadu, the problems that Dalits and the caste just immediately before that is actually very accentuated in recent times. One is because of the enormous economic power, the political and economic power this particular class enjoys. That is something we need to look into also. That's what has happened in the past post-liberalization. That is what has actually happened. And some of these communities have gained enormous economic power with the help of the state, which my friend Professor Lakshman here says, state capitalism, state-aided capitalism. Okay, and that is something that we need to talk about also. Then, the situation of the Dalit women. They're doubly disadvantaged group actually, rightly speaking. They're doubly disadvantaged group. This book actually does not address their problems at depth. That is something that we need to look into also. And but another thing, which is again my personal opinion, should we still continue to use, Brahminism or something, to identify discrimination? But at the end of the day, what has happened is, when you talk of Brahminism, it is immediately points to the Brahmins. The intermediate caste no longer has this guilt feeling on them. That what they're doing is also something terribly wrong. So what happens is when you use the word Brahminism, maybe the educated lot can identify Brahminism is not something related to Brahmins, and it does actually exist in every community. But that's not the case. In practice, what happens is the moment you talk about Brahminism, you immediately identify that with the Brahmins. But we need to go a little further away from that, because many of the things, as we are going to talk about the economic situation also, some 21st century problems require 21st century solutions. We shouldn't be tied up with what happened many years ago. And naturally, the next thing is capitalism. Rightly speaking, we don't have an economic solution at all. That's a fact that we need to accept. I'm not sure whether we can still rely on state democracy, state socialism or communism and other things. They are utopian. Maybe I'm not sure. We have come a lot away from that also. The future is not there. Future is something different. Maybe we need to find new solutions also. Dalit capitalism is something, when he talks of Dalit capitalism, what he does is, he takes examples from the communities which actually practice the Indian version of the Dalit capitalism here, which I call as the Indian version of the capitalism. It is actually controlled by one or two communities. It does not actually spread across. Maybe Brahmins and the Banias, they literally control this capitalism. But I have an example, particularly the Nara community. They were able to collectively rise from economic and social degradation purely by their hard work and sheer economic clout. They literally control the retail business here. Naturally, the side effect was now they stand shoulders above other communities and try to suppress it. That is there. That cannot be avoided. But that is something I think we need to learn also. Maybe we can actually discuss that also. So finally, Suraj takes us through a journey of his life, his experience, and offers some much needed critical insight on why caste matters. Thank you, Suraj.